motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move, Justin.
Second, Tony.
First and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, Joe Finken.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Justin.
Hi, Travis.
Opposed? Motion carried. Open forum. I don't see anybody wanting to talk. Then we have a consent agenda. Approval of the minutes, approval of the bills and purchase orders, approval of the investments. Yep. And then there's two resolutions. Resolution number 2022, a donation of $1,000 from the Melrose Lions towards the Riverfest celebration. Resolution number 2020-23, amount of $250 from the Grey Eagles, Grey Eagle and Bircham Lions Club to the Melrose Ambulance. Then resolution number 2020-24, donation of $200 from the Melrose VFW Post 7050 to the Melrose Ambulance. I'm sorry, that was the $200 was going to Riverfest. Sorry about that. I just want to say thank you to everybody for their donations. And then E is actually F in the consent agenda. So basically E is supposed to be pay voucher number 4 for County Road 65 sidewalk project. And F is ambulance bad debt. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Bunker will make a motion to approve.
Okay, who second it?
Justin.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye, Joe Finken.
Hi, Bunker.
Hi, Justin.
Hi, Travis.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, we're on a report. Police Department monthly report. Craig, are you there?
I am.
All right, go for it.
Our monthly statistics for March 2020 in our traffic area, we had 15 citations, 69 verbal warnings, and 1 written warning. For the month in 2020, we were at 278 calls or requests for service. Last year, we were at 426, so down 148 calls in that month alone. We ended on ICR 895, and last year we were at ICR 1151, so we're down 256 overall for the year. And agency assists, we had 25 of those, so that's pretty steady and consistent. Some areas in the police department that we're feeling encouraged about is the social distancing seems to be working, as well as groups are at a minimum. We do encourage people as it's getting warm out to continue that, especially with non-family members. I know that the parks are going to get excited again when it warms up, but we just hope that people can get out as much as they can, but still maintain that social distancing until either the governor lifts those issues or until we can make sure everybody's going to be safe out and about and not spreading any of the virus extra anywhere else. One other area I wanted to make the council aware, after the very next day, actually, after our March meeting, we got our annual report from the Stearns County Attorney's Office on what they've been doing for us throughout the year. Numbers are pretty consistent over last few years. Our juvenile numbers are real steady. The adult numbers are a little bit higher on what we were filing, and most of those are jumping from misdemeanors to gross misdemeanors. And a lot of that is based on previous criminal history points and those sorts of things. So nothing real major, but just seeing that some of the crime levels are increasing a bit, partially because of criminal histories and a little bit because of what the activity was. But overall, nothing major or concerning on that side of things. Any questions from the council?
Yeah, Craig, this is Tony.
Yep.
As far as the social distancing and the executive order by the governor goes, we've seen there's been some pretty eye-opening experiences in other areas of the country where people are being, let's say, tracked, harassed, fined, threatened with jail time. How are we handling? Are we threatening people with fines or legal action, or are we treating this as more of a recommendation?
A little bit of both. So what we've been seeing and what we've been hearing, at least in the law enforcement area statewide, is upfront do education just to make sure that people are aware of what's still going on and how long this could last for. And then, the vast majority of folks are doing really well with that. We had some basketball players early on, some soccer players early on in the parks when we had some nicer days early in this, and they were good about doing these sorts of things. If it becomes habitual, I know that some departments, law enforcement, got to go to the prosecution side of things, referring to their prosecuting attorneys to have it evaluated for the violation of the executive order. We're not seeing anything like that, and it would have to be, like I said, a repeat offender or something along the nature that pretty egregious that we'd look into that. It is a misdemeanor level offense, but like I said, we realize that we only get so many decent days, but at the same time, we don't want the disease and the virus to be coming to our community either. So we're trying to do a good balance with that, and it seems to be working so far.
Right. My hang up here is, I've been obviously doing a lot of reading on this what they're calling a pandemic, and the powers that the governments around the country, governors and government in general, has been imposing. And we've sort of allowed, this is just from what I've read, we're sort of allowing for constitutional rights to be withdrawn on a whim, based on a lot of information that is becoming somewhat questionable. If you look at the cases, in my opinion, at Melrose, there is no pandemic in Melrose right now. We have, for a while now, we've maintained right around supposedly 7 cases of the COVID-19 in Stearns County. Centric Care came out in maybe 11. Maybe my data's old. But Centric Care the other day put out a story that tested 750 people. They've had 1 positive case that were showing signs, obviously. My concern is that, if people start saying, you know what, this has been blown out of proportion, we're going to get together, our First Amendment in the Bill of Rights is people have a right to peaceably assemble. I, as a council member, swear my oath of office is to uphold the Constitution, number 1. When do we, now that the governor has extended this till May 13th, when do we go reel it back in and say, you know what, we're not enforcing this. We're recommending it, but we're not going to enforce it, and allow people the rights under the Constitution. I don't think a governor has the right to just remove our constitutional freedoms. And maybe Scott can chime in also, but if there is no pandemic, which I'm leaning questioning this whole pandemic thing, at least in our area. I would hate to be on the 5 o'clock news saying that we're writing citations and stuff because a father is playing ball with his daughter in the park. I don't know if anybody saw that story or not.
Was that in Minnesota? Was that in Stearns County? Was that in Melrose?
That was not. But what I want to do is get ahead of this and make sure that we're not going down that road.
But I think you have to also look at the stuff that's getting the big time news is where there are hot spots. I guess I haven't seen anything in the upper Midwest here yet, and as long as people are being responsible and fairly intelligent about this thing, including the enforcement by our local law enforcement, I just don't see this being an issue.
Well, I don't. It's not an issue in my mind right now either. What I'm saying is we we need to start thinking about how long do your rights get taken away without questioning it. I know Scott's online too. If Scott can chime in, he's the attorney here.
All right, Scott, what do you think?
I have not looked at First Amendment implications. At this point, is this a valid order? Isn't it a valid order? For now, if someone wants to challenge the order on First Amendment grounds, I'm not aware that anyone has filed anything like that. And until we would get a court decision saying that the order isn't valid, then I think, the police and the city are obligated to, follow the law and follow the terms of the order. Granted, whenever you get law enforcement, the police have a certain amount of discretion as to, when do they tag, when do they warn. And so long as we're not seeing any abuse of discretion, I don't think Melrose necessarily wants to be the test case on filing a First Amendment challenge. If for no other reason that it's going to be spending, because it's going to end up going up to the Supreme Court.
Right. No, and I get that. I just want to make sure that we're being, if it gets to be an issue where we see a lot of cases popping up, I get it. We don't see any cases around here. At least not that have needed medical attention or even needed to be tested for that matter.
Or that we're not aware of.
Well, and if that's the case, then why is it a pandemic?
Well, this is Bunker. As far as the disease, the spread, the transmission, like I said earlier, we know that there are areas that have it, and they're doing whatever they can to mitigate, in other words, social distancing. We don't have it in our area, and I think because of the social distancing, it hasn't got an opportunity to sprout. That's not saying that things couldn't change in 2 weeks, but I also believe that, like you say, the weather's going to be getting nicer. Folks are going to be getting out. They're going to be wanting to enjoy some of the weather and some of the outdoor activities. And I think that our local law enforcement officers have enough moxie. They have the ability to speak with folks, counsel, advise. I don't see them getting into a knockdown, drag-out battle, hook them up, arrest them, and drag them to the squad car because somebody's not willing to adhere by stay 6 feet away from each other in the park. If it was to become an issue, I'm guessing that Chief Mouse would certainly bring it to our attention, and I would guess that the mayor in his infinite wisdom would probably convene some sort of an emergency meeting so we could address and hopefully counsel and advise the police department as to how they should proceed if this is becoming an issue. But in the meantime, I guess by encouraging people to possibly go out and challenge the stay-at-home order, or to encourage people to challenge law enforcement who is trying to counsel, advise, and enforce is probably not the most responsible thing for the governing body to be doing at this time.
And I'm not advising or encouraging anybody to do that, nor would I ever do that. What I am trying to do is figure out how long this, now it's a whole nother month, shelter in place order. And the original reason for the shelter in place was to flatten the curve. Right now there is no curve. It's a flat line.
Well, I think we got to rely on science. for guidance and, how long it lasts, how severe it is. I know what you're saying there, but I think we just have to rely on science and do what the medical folks are advising us to do.
All right, that's good. All right, I want to move on. City Attorney report. Scott, did you want to add anything else to your report?
Yeah, I got my report, and you'll see we've had some questions from the Mossmans about their property and what they can do. They're thinking about selling a piece. I'm sure you're all aware about work being done with MATA and the revolving loan fund. And then earlier this evening, you had the auditor's presentation. I just noted on there that every year as part of that audit, they ask me to submit a letter. What they're looking for is if I'm aware of any pending lawsuits that aren't showing up on the city's books yet that would have an effect on the city's finances, and the answer is always no. So, but we do submit that every year, so you'll see that come through as well. Unless anyone has any other questions, that's all I've got for my report right now.
Nope. I'm good. All right, Community Development Director update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have 22 building permits that have now been submitted year to date. 18 are general, 1 mechanical, and 1 plumbing. We do have a new house permit as well. So things are picking up for the spring construction season. Even though we're doing a lot of the management remotely, things are seeming to move pretty well along in the process. For the CDBG grant, Ed Zimney with the Central Minnesota Housing Partnership is managing the city's federal commercial and housing updates grant. The funds are $112,000 left for residential and $80,000 left for commercial. And I know there's one house that's in the process of being approved and has not yet been reduced from that dollar amount. Ed Zimney is leaving the Central Minnesota Housing Partnership, and our interim person is Jason Kresbach until we get a new person designated to replace Ed. Other than that, we've been pretty busy with working on getting the emergency loans processed. We've got 6 applications that have come in thus far. We're starting our first review on Monday morning. We sent out several revision requests or update requests that are due noon on Friday, and so things are moving along well. We did do a minor update staff level wise, changing the loan date or timeline from a 2-year payback to a 4-year payback. What we found was that with a 2-year payback, given the fact that there's 6 months of deferred payments, that really kind of compressed the amount of repayment and made the repayment schedule over $400 a month. And we thought that was a little probably problematic for at least some businesses. And so by stretching that to a 4-year repayment schedule, that then takes it down to closer to $200 a month repayment, which seemed a little more doable to businesses that would already be, kind of working through some difficult times. So things are moving along well. Does anyone have any questions, or maybe I should give just a brief overview on the program itself. I'll take a moment and just do that. The City Council at their April 2nd meeting held a joint meeting with MATA and approved an emergency revolving loan fund modification to the existing revolving loan fund, which allows 0% interest loans up to $10,000 per business, up to $100,000 total, to be dedicated towards helping businesses that have been negatively impacted by COVID-19. There's a 6-month deferred payment on that, and they would have then, as I mentioned, 4 years to pay that back. So we're hoping that this will help some of the businesses that are most need of some immediate cash just to kind of keep their business afloat and continue to remain viable into the future. Any questions?
Thank you, Lisa.
Yep.
Thank you. City Engineer report. Mike, are you out there?
I am. Good evening, Mayor and council members. You have my written report. The only two things that I wanted to highlight were that this morning we opened the bids for the Fifth Street project, and we did that pretty much virtually. We were able to utilize the library book drop slot, and contractors put their bids in there, and we picked them up. We read them aloud on a go-to meeting, and the contractors were able to listen in. So that went well. We'll discuss the bids in a little more detail later in the agenda, but there has been a process in place for some time now where contractors can totally bid electronically, or they have to. We've been kind of resisting that, at least outstate here, due to some of the smaller contractors maybe not having that capability. But I think one of the things that everybody's kind of learned here is how to do things digitally where you used to do them in person before. So in the future, I think we're going to discuss in more depth going to an electronic format where there is no more opening. You just hit the button and everything spits out a number, and they're all tabulated for you. So that's all I've got on the bids. Casey South is moving along. The curb and gutter has been poured, and they're beginning to demo the parking lot today when I was there. And I believe they're supposed to have the store completely leveled by the end of day tomorrow. So that's all I've got. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you.
All right. City Administrator report, Colleen?
To add on to Mike's report a little bit, we have had a couple meetings regarding the Melrose Road Dam and Bridge project, and we actually have another one scheduled tomorrow. We're working through some of the requirements of both the U.S. Corps as well as the DNR, and those have been going fine so far. I'm not going to say they're going great, but they're going. At least the communication is open, and we actually have. The regional director of the DNR is actually part of the process, and I think that really kind of helps. So we'll see how that all comes down. The other thing is, and it is on hold because we said we weren't going to be bringing it back, but we did after the last council meeting. We talked about, well, is it going to hurt to, talk to the Blankers and just say, hey, are you still interested? Is the developer still interested? And that was something that was brought up by Travis at the last meeting. And so we did, talk to the Blankers. They still are very interested. We were able to provide them with the appraisal that was done on their property. And we have done a very preliminary site layout possibly for that site. But again, understanding that we don't have the authority or the power to move forward in any negotiations until we brought it back to Council MATA in May. Other than that, the COVID-19, city center offices are going to be closed until May 4th. I know that the governor extended his executive powers, but I don't think did he extend the stay-at-home order, and I'm not aware of it? I didn't think so. We've been conducting these meetings now remotely, and, I have to say they've been going fairly well. So the admin team is working remotely for the most part. We stagger the schedule so that people have to come in and get deposits or whatever. They can do that. I am here in the office, and then Public Works continues to work in staggered shifts, except in those cases when we have to have all hands on deck for projects as they start to get out in the field and they have to start doing that. It's simply not pragmatic to have just two guys on a crew. We have to have all. So we're doing that as much as we can, but everyone's really doing a good job of kind of respecting sort of everything that we put in place. There's kind of been an increase in our kind of fire hall schedule cleaning. And then right now the playground equipment is roped off, and that was actually, I'm part of a community huddle that happens on Fridays, and Center Care had asked us to consider doing that. So at the moment, it is roped off. How long that stays in place, I don't know at this point. And then the camping sites at Soft River Park, it normally would open May 1st, and it will open May 4th, is where we're looking at getting it open unless something changes. We will continue to monitor the situation, and we put a lot of stuff out on our website as well as our Facebook page. And I just want to take this opportunity to acknowledge all the city staff for the council. They've all done a really good job, and even though everyone's working remotely, I think everyone's really working hard to make sure our customers are served, because that is something that the city has always prided itself on, is really serving the residents of the community. And we're doing a really good job of that. So I really just want to reach out to all the staff and commend them for the job that they're doing. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I don't have any other comments.
All right. All right, it is 6:26. We have a public hearing. 3-2 off-sale liquor license, Coburn's Incorporated, DBA Coburn's Grocery Store, number 2043. This is going to be an open public hearing. So, do we have letters or affidavits?
Yes.
Okay. From the Beacon, is it, or who do it? Okay. All right. Yeah, it was on the 25th day of March, 2020, and April 1st, 2020, for the Beacon. So it's been out there. I guess at this time, who wants to give the lowdown on it?
I can, I think, maybe.
Just more or less.
Yep. Give me a second here. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
So everything is all in line, all in check. Yeah. When it does come time to go through with this, we'll just have to verbalize everything. Is there anybody else online that has any questions about this? Council? Is there anybody in the public? Anybody have any questions? Okay, nobody from council has any questions? I don't see anybody wanting to be here to talk. Did we receive any letters of, okay, so then we should be good. So I guess what we will be doing is voting on this in just a few seconds. So it is 6:28. We'll close the meeting then. All right, on the action items. Action item A, 3-2 off-sale liquor license, Coburn's Grocery. Can I get a motion to approve?
Justin, so
Aye,
moved.
Travis.
We have a first and a second from Justin and Travis. All in favor say aye. Aye, Joe Finken.
Aye, Justin.
Aye, Travis.
Tony.
Hi, Bunker.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. Planning and Zoning Commission appointments. Everybody have time to look at that. Do we have any questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve,
Done.
Bunker.
Second,
Second,
Travis.
Tony.
Okay, we have first and second. All in favor say aye. Aye, Joe.
Hi, Bunker.
Hi, Tony.
Okay.
Aye, Justin. Aye, Travis.
All right. All right. Motion is carried, and we just want to welcome Ms. McDonald to the Planning and Zoning Commission. All right. Pro rating liquor license. I know this has been out there. Does anybody have any problems with it at all?
That's for the on sales?
Correct. Yep. Bars and restaurants.
I have no issue with that. Tony.
Okay. Do you want to make the motion then, Tony?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second, Justin.
Okay, there's a first and second, we need a clarification.
Yep, so there's two different ways that you can handle this. One is you can prorate it for this year and give them a partial refund back on what they paid for towards their liquor license, or you can apply it to the following year's application and permit fee. So there's two distinct ways that you may want to do it. So I guess I would respectfully request a clarification on the motion as to which route you would like to take.
Wayne, do you feel that it would not be as clean, or it would be cluttered if we were to contact the liquor license holders and ask them what they would prefer, whether they would like to be reimbursed by a check, immediately, or whether they would prefer to have it carry over?
I don't know, Patty.
Yeah, Tessa's either way.
The only thing is, and I will also ask for clarification, there's on sale, Sunday on sale, which is separate fees, so if we do prorate or whatever, I'll need to know when we figure this out, if we're prorating this on the on sale, which is $1,700 this year, for Sunday on sale, so it'll be a total of $1,900. Or if you want this to be on sale, $1,700, clarification.
Yeah, so that's the second part of it.
Okay.
Or how you handle it.
Tony?
I couldn't hardly, I couldn't hardly hear what Patty was saying.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what Patty said here.
Patty basically said, right now, there's two different liquor licenses. There is the $1,700 that people pay for on sale, and then there is a $200 Sunday liquor license. So what she was saying is there would need to be clarification also if you're just gonna prorate the on sale, or if you're gonna prorate both the on sale and the Sunday liquor license. And then however we wanna handle it. And Tessa, I don't know if you wanna chime in here, from an accounting standpoint, how many liquor license holders do we have, Patty?
I believe there's 6 of the Sunday and
Right, there's only 6, so I don't think it would probably be a big deal either way, but I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with what you guys want to do.
Would it be just cleanest to prorate it and give them a refund? They could probably use the cash now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine with that.
I think that's a good idea, Tony.
Okay.
I'll second
I would like
that.
to I'd like to amend the motion to include that. We prorate it and return the funds now on both of them,
Both of them?
both versions, the Sunday and the
And the
on sale.
regular,
Bunker will
And
second
the
that
regular?
motion.
okay. Just a second, is that okay, Patty, now? Okay, there's a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, Joe?
Hi, Justin.
Aye, Bunker.
Hi, Tony.
Aye, Travis.
All right. Opposed, motion carried. All right. We're on to old business, which is 2020 street improvement project. Would like to.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, bids were open this morning at 10 a.m. They were checked for mathematical accuracy and tabulated. The low bidder was Mark Lee Excavating of Alexandria, Minnesota, in a grand total amount of $446,137.00. The engineer's estimate for the project was $570,637.40. So the bids came in excellent, about 22% under engineer's estimate, and most of that money, if not all of it, was in the excavation portion of the roadway. The bottom 4 bidders on the project all had excavating in their name. They were the smaller, more local companies bidding that project. So it's our recommendation that the bid be awarded to Mark Lee in that amount of $446,137.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. This is Tony. Did you ever did you work with the Public Utilities Commission to find out if they want to do that extra work or not?
Yes, well, I did talk to Roger, and Roger said that, he had it budgeted and wanted to move forward with it, so, I left it at that, so.
Okay, and is that, because obviously we have to tear out more sidewalks, right, to do that?
Yes.
And maybe, Colleen, could you address how that's gonna be handled?
As far as payment goes,
Yeah, I'm just curious.
we've got
If that additional street sidewalk work would be taken out, picked up by the public utilities or not?
correct, it would be. Yeah, right now we've got it broken out. Essentially, we're taking out 5x5 or 6x6 panels of sidewalk. So it'll be easy to measure up and keep track of, so.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we have it broken out on estimated quantities right now, but we'll measure the actual, removals. The other thing that I did want to mention is that, we are significantly under budget, which is great. I would like to ask the council for a little bit of leeway on our dirt work. We had estimated a certain amount, and if we run into additional black dirt or poor materials, I would like some leeway and authorization, I guess, to take some of that out if I think it's a benefit. Like I said, the dirt numbers were very reasonable, and if I do see some value, I would like, potentially maybe up to a $25,000 or $30,000 leeway on the dirt work.
And that would, more or less improve the sub-base for the road, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we did soil borings, and we kind of did an estimate based off of those soil borings. But again, they're spaced at 300 to 400 feet apart, so we may run into some bad soils between those borings that goes a little bit deeper than what the borings had showed us. So instead of slowing the contractor down and coming back to the council, if we could maybe set a limit and trust that I've used my judgment in taking out only what's necessary.
I think that's reasonable that we can give you a leeway of 25,000 to do it right as long as we're there.
Sounds like a lot of dirt work.
It is, Tony, but I mean, we had estimated originally that we were going to do about $180,000 work. I mean, we're still doing $80,000 worth of dirt work. So I'm not asking, for a 50% increase or anything, but again, given the timing that we only have one meeting a month, I mean, that whole project could be, almost completed in a month. So having to wait for, potentially 3 weeks, I guess, to get an approval could severely slow things down.
Yeah, the only reason I question it is because we got a good bid. Well, it looks like a good bid, right? But that wasn't part of it prior. Does that make sense? If the bid would have came in at the full estimated engineering cost, would that request be here to do additional dirt work?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, and I've thought I've explained through the whole process here that, the dirt work is always the big unknown. I mean, we know that we're going to put down 8 inches of gravel. We know that we're going to put down 3.5 inches of bituminous, but we never know to an exact amount how much bad soil we're going to dig out. If that makes sense. And again, right now we've got
Sorry, Mike, it does make sense. However, we knew there's soil corrections going into this job that need to happen, correct? Probably
Yes.
quite a bit of it. So then, anyway, if you want to give a little extra in the budget for it, I'm okay with it. I'm just saying that 25,000 is that you can do a lot of dirt work for $25,000.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we'll even use any of it, you know. And again, I mean, I try to come up with a reasonable estimate. You know, I could have estimated it way over and come under, but I mean, I try to make a reasonable estimate based on the information that we have. But again, there's always some degree of uncertainty as to what's under the ground. So.
Well, I guess if I'm adding and subtracting correctly here, we're 114.5 roughly under what was estimated. If we allow Mike to use an additional 25, if he feels that it's necessary, we're still under $90,000 under the projected project, which is still pretty reasonable.
Yeah, we're actually, I think if I remember correctly, it was like 124.5 was the total difference.
Yep.
So we would still be about 100 under. And like I said, I have no desire to spend the money if we don't need to. But I don't want to slow the project down, and I don't want to leave a ball of bad dirt under the new pavement either. So.
This is Travis. He is right on the 124.5 difference, so I'd be fine with the 25 leeway.
Yeah. Gary does want to say something here. Gary, could you come up?
I just wanted to make a comment that when this was approved by the council, I believe this whole project that was approved was over $800,000. I believe it was $145,000 for them, $50,000 for Third Street, and I believe it was $630,000 council approved for Fifth Street.
Yeah. Well, good.
If you didn't hear Gary, I think he said that the original estimations that they were thinking for the entire project was closer to $800,000. So
That's what the council did approve at that time.
Yep.
So, all right. Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Okay, can I get a second?
second with the amendment that WSB Mike Nielsen has the option, if he feels necessary, if they run into a bad spot, to spend up to 25,000 additional funds to rectify the bad spot and do the road right.
Is that what you wanted, Justin?
Yes.
Okay. We have a first and second. All in favor say aye. Aye, Joe.
Hi, Justin.
Hi, Tony.
Hi,
All
Travis.
opposed? Okay. Okay, motion is carried.
Thank you.
Old business. Yep,
Thanks, Mike.
Emergency revolving loan fund policy.
Lisa, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so do you just want to talk about this and explain to the council what this is? This was actually a result of the April 2nd meeting. We just wanted it in here for you guys to see, and I don't know, do we need a form? We do need approval, I think. Maybe.
One thing I will also note, the policy calls for an application fee, which as we kind of proceeded rather quickly through the process, we have not implemented the application fee. So that is something that either we need to go back and request that be submitted by applicants prior to a decision being made, or just remove that from the policy.
Great. Otherwise,
I pretty much gave a pretty quick overview before. Does anyone have any questions or anything you want me to go over in particular?
Yeah, $150 policy. $150 application fee is what we had originally talked about. And you're right, Lisa, we should have collected that, but.
Yeah, and we can collect it at this point if we think that's either before a decision, before money is issued, maybe that, because I don't know that we're necessarily going to have an origination fee if the bank is not processing it. So
Correct.
So we maybe need to clarify what kind of fee, if any, we want to charge either application or issuance.
Because the one thing about the application fee, if it's 150, it's right in line with all our other, isn't it very similar to what we get for conditional use permits and interim use permits as well?
We do $300 for conditional uses and interim uses. Those require public hearings, and so that helps to defer some of the costs related to that, and also recording. This would not need to be recorded because it's not tied to real estate. It's just a personal guarantee. There's some legal work that went into the creation of the loan program. There's some staff time, obviously, that will go into administering the loan program. 150 is what we charge, I believe, for the commercial deferred loan application fee. Traditionally, even though it's called an application fee, we haven't generally collected that at the time of the application, but we do collect it as part of the process of issuing the funds. So we could certainly do that with this as well.
This is Justin. I personally, with the, everything that's going on right now with these businesses that are going to be applying for it, I don't feel that an application fee is necessary. I think we waive it. That's my thought. But
Is that a requirement from the financial institutions, the application fee?
No,
So we're holding everything. The financial institutions are just part of the loan committee. We're actually generating all the loan documents within the city staff here is doing the work.
the actual costs for the program would be the time that Scott put into creating the note and the agreements. And then we're proposing that the bankers, that there would be two of them sitting on the loan committee, would get reimbursed as would a typical person on any city committee. So I think that's like, is it $25 a meeting or something like that? 35. So that would be the actual cost that the city has other than staff time.
do we have a lot of people that have applied?
We have 6 businesses that have applied at this point.
So that's 60% of the fund already, and we literally did a soft opening on it or whatever last Thursday or Friday, and it just opened this week. So we're still waiting for some documentation back from them, but we have 6 that applied at this time, yes. And we're having our first loan committee meeting Monday morning at 7 a.m.
So the 6 that have applied have asked for the full 10,000.
Yes, they have.
Okay. Are we looking through that, like, whether or not they need the full 10,000?
That's part of the whole process, the due diligence that we go through, Justin. So one of the things that they have to do is they have to provide receipts for all of the money that they're going to spend, and it can't be the same. If, for example, they are under the payroll protection program with the feds and they receive that money, they're using that for payroll, so they can't use our dollars for payroll. They can use our dollars for rent payments, utility payments, that type of thing. But it has to be different than what they're using the other funding sources for.
Okay. Well, I just heard you say 60% of it was gone already, and I was like, well, how are we regulating that a little bit? Like, I don't know if somebody's business is asking for 10,000 for a rent payment. I mean, that can go a long ways. I mean, we might be out of this by now. So
there's sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa. Okay.
A lot of what we're seeing is rent payments around the $1,000 to $2,000 a month kind of thing. We're seeing the Stearns County taxes, and those are between $4,000 and $7,000 on some of them that we've seen. We're seeing, everything from waste management bills to city utility bills, that kind of stuff. So they do kind of add up towards the $5,000 to $10,000 pretty quickly.
okay. I just wanted I'm not questioning why we're giving it away right away. making sure that we were actually looking into it, not so it's, you know, oh, well, I can get $10,000 interest free, so I would take it.
Yeah, no, we have a pretty, you know, we have a process in place, and if you look at the policy, it really does talk about what all they can spend it on, and they have to prove it up with the receipts side of it. They have up to 6 months, but they have to show us the receipts, and we'll audit those to make sure they're legitimate expenses, just like we would if we were doing a TIPS project or anything else. So that's part of it. And there is one of the companies that's applied. There's kind of a relationship with one of the others that applied, so that we may be at 5, not 6. We'll have to see here, but.
So it appears there's appropriate, not to do with any question in my mind, and I think Justin's question was good, but it appears there's proper oversight in the application process, so that's not really an issue anymore, Justin.
Right. I guess I'm fine either way. If we want to have an application fee or not, I don't know. I mean, maybe we only take the application fee if they get granted any money. That would seem. I mean, it would seem more fair, I guess, than I get the, you know, application fees for. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but for variances and stuff like that, that's a little different. That's completely different than this.
All right, are you making a motion, Justin, one way?
Well, I don't know. Has anybody else got any other ideas? I mean, I'll make a motion, but
I like the idea that we're doing what we can to try to get the money out there as fast as we can. Unfortunately, the folks that need it, it probably isn't coming fast enough. I've got no quarrel with waiving the application fee.
Are you okay with that, Justin?
yep, I'll make that motion.
Second it, please.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor, saying aye. Hi, Joe.
Hi,
Bunker.
Justin.
Hi, Travis.
Okay, anybody opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution number 2020.
Before you go on, I just wanted to clarify, you know, that motion was to adopt the policy, but waive the fee.
Waive the fee.
Okay.
All right. Resolution number 2020-21, resolution declaring a local emergency.
So this was something that you had approved prior to tonight's meeting. You had approved it at the last council meeting that we had. And this was put in place due to the governor's emergency, state of emergency. So this is something that when, as part of the declaration, we simply bring it back to the council so they're aware of it. We do not have a deadline on ours to send it. It actually is kind of out there indefinitely until the council declares that we no longer have a local emergency. So we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, and it was mentioned under the police report. Primarily, you guys talked about this quite a bit. So with that, if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think we've kind of covered this particular item.
I guess I'll ask the question, do we feel it's necessary yet?
For you, Mr. Mayor.
To be honest with you, I think Colleen and I have probably talked more this month than I have with my wife and kids put together. I think we talk on an average probably twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
Just going through just all little stuff, stuff that we're getting through our intermixed emails, stuff from the government, from the state offices, the governor's office, the CDC. I'm getting a lot from different mayors on how to handle this. So a lot of just ideas we've been pretty much throwing back and forth. Yeah, it's working really well, and I don't think we haven't taken advantage of anything yet. So, but whatever.
One of the things, and Tony, one of the things I do want to mention to the council is, I'm very concerned about making sure that our businesses can get back as soon as possible. I think that that's something that we do need to watch closely and see what happens there, because I do think it's really important that our business community is up and running as quickly as possible. I think that we're very conscientious about that. And at this point, we're still taking, we are part of the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. They have calls twice a week. And so we sit in and listen to those calls. And I know that they are working diligently to try and come up with standards to get those businesses up and running as quickly as possible. I mean, the fortunate part about being in Melrose is, we have a good majority of our businesses that are able to be up and running, but I still have, we still have those that aren't. And so the sooner we can get them up and running, in my opinion, the better. So I feel very strongly that we want to make sure that part of it, we are working very, I'm in communication with the mayor, and working very diligently on, educating the businesses, doing what we have to do to get that to happen.
And that's all.
A couple of Sundays ago, I was door pounding with a few of the businesses too, just to let them know that this was coming up. So I've been doing a lot above and beyond also.
And I'm not saying any of it's bad, because essentially what this is doing is allowing Mayor Finken to make unilateral decisions in the community, correct?
How do you want to say that? Pretty lightly. Anything major, I think you guys have been getting emails on stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I try and, I've tried to keep you guys apprised that anytime there's a major decision, Tony, we really have, I've sent out the email blasts. I think you guys have gotten them almost every Friday since we started. And if you feel that I need to increase that communication, I'm more than happy to do that. I have kept the mayor, as he has said, very much apprised of what's happening. And then our staff is very much apprised of that as well. We have admin meetings every week. We have department head meetings every week. So we've been trying just to, and we're getting inundated with all this stuff, and we're navigating this as best we can too. And so I just, with the information that we have out there, I feel confident that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing at this time.
Well, and I'm sure you are. The way I look at this emergency order is that it should only be imposed under extreme circumstances where the council cannot meet in a timely fashion to make decisions as a council, correct?
That would be correct.
So are we in that situation? I'm just asking the question.
And I'm not sure exactly what Joe may or may not have done up to this point. I know that he hates swing sets, so we went and put fencing around swing sets. But other than that, and there might be some other things. I'm not really sure what all's been involved. But looking at it from the other side, if things were to go horribly wrong suddenly, and I think if history shows anything in the last month and a half, things can go horribly wrong very, very quickly with this particular virus, that Joe does have the authority to make some snapshot judgments that are going to be in the best interest of everyone in the community. Not saying that he has, not saying that he will, but I think that's all we're doing is giving him the authority to go ahead and do that kind of thing if he absolutely has to. But I think it should remain in place.
I'm fine with that.
All right.
Can we just
Anybody
review it?
else? Travis, do you have any comments, Travis?
No, I'm fine with that.
And again, I think if there is anything, I definitely, Colleen or I would definitely get a hold of you, any or all of you. But I think for the most part, I think we're pretty open.
The one thing I do want you guys to be aware of is they are going to start curbside library pickup next week, which is a good thing. So that's one of those areas that we're trying to slowly get back open up. And so they are going to offer that at least twice a week. So that's something that I'm very happy to see happening.
All right. So with that, what do you guys want to do with the local emergency order? Do you want to keep that in place yet?
I will,
Talk about it today?
I'll motion to keep it in place, but I'd like to at least review it every month on the meeting.
Every month. I
Yeah.
agree 100%. Okay, there's a first. Is there a second?
I'll second
Second,
motion.
Travis.
Okay, there's a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Joe.
Aye, Bunker.
Hi, Travis.
Okay, opposed? Okay. Motion is carried. So we're on the 9A, new business, parking area surface requirement.
Yep, I'm going to let Lisa take this one. We had a request by a resident who has an RV, and we require pavement concrete for driveways. But this person wants to put down kind of crushed granite for underneath an RV, which is better than it sitting on dirt. But I'm going to let Lisa talk about this a little bit.
So from time to time, the issue of paving and what's required for parking areas comes up. And we found kind of an easy solution for this one because it's a RV that they're looking to store. We have a section 503 of the zoning code that has a segment related to vehicle exterior parking requirements for major recreational equipment storage. It's 503.02. And we can add fairly easily just an additional item section or item number 1.5 under that that would call out for major recreational equipments that they may be stored on a durable surface, which is defined as asphalt, concrete, or pavers by ordinance, and then we can specify crushed rock, crushed granite, crushed bituminous, or whatnot. The Planning Commission did take a look preliminarily at this at their last meeting. It was not given to the city in time enough to publish it as an ordinance amendment for them. So they have not heard it officially as an ordinance amendment. However, they just kind of looked at it conceptually, and they're thinking to allow crushed granite or crushed bituminous as an alternate surface for underneath RVs would be acceptable. And perhaps adding a size limitation to that. This does come up from time to time, just for parking in general for residential and commercial driveways. We haven't historically allowed crushed granite or crushed bituminous. We really only allow the concrete pavers, concrete, asphalt, or pavers as durable surface. So I guess the Planning Commission will be hearing this at their next meeting. The Planning Commission meeting, we're going to look at postponing just a little bit so that we're after the COVID-19 timeline. I believe the date they looked at was May 11th. So for anyone who's wanting to kind of follow that, that's probably when that would be heard. But the Planning Commission would look to guidance from the council if there is any direction on durable surfacing in general and specifically related to the parking of RVs. Are there any comments?
I don't.
And if I remember correctly, Sean Maris, who's on the Planning and Zoning Commission, did have some input as to what he thought would be appropriate types of surfaces. Obviously, he's in the business, so I think he was going to look into that a little bit more and give us just a little bit more input prior to the May 11th meeting.
Yeah. That's correct.
I'm definitely,
Traditionally, there's a $300 application fee. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor.
Were you going to say something?
oh, I'm listening. So $300 to lay down crushed granite?
There's a $300 ordinance fee, application fee, and I would suggest that this be waived because I think we kind of know that this is an issue. If you would like to have us waive that, it does require the council to direct us to waive the fee.
We're not gonna have somebody individually pay for it, it's the ordinance change that we're kind of directing.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yes. No, I think that's fair. Waive it.
Does that have to be in the form of a motion or agreement?
No,
Right.
Scott's shaking his head no, so we're fine as long as you give us that.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
so then we'll
that
proceed. We'll proceed with an ordinance amendment relating just to storage areas for recreational vehicles, related to paving in just those areas.
Okay. Everybody else okay with that on the council?
Yep,
Yep.
sounds good.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right, we are on to informational items, Utilities Commission meeting minutes. Nothing else? Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So move, Justin.
Second,
Second,
Travis.
Tony.
Okay, there's a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, Joe.
Hi, Bunker.
Hi, Tony.
All right, Travis.
Okay, opposed? Motion's carried. Meeting adjourned.